Okay, so let me share screen. Okay, we're going to start with the FSEL first, because I think that's the older piece of work. All right, so I hope everyone can see the screen. All right. Okay, so this is the question. Stalin's rule had benefited the Soviet Union and her people, right? So how far do you agree with the statement? And as I said before, okay, this is SEQ part B, so it is going to be two-sided. They will give you a statement, or sometimes they'll ask you things like, to what extent do you agree that Stalin's rule had benefited Soviet Union and people? So you should be able to identify what kind of question is it. Is it just a simple factor story? The factor is already in the question and you just have to answer without with just one perspective. Or in this case, for SEQ part B, you have to give both perspectives. Okay. So just to recap, how to identify the factor and the issue, right? The factor is the one that answers the question, right? So you have to be more specific how which aspects of Stalin's rule, what policies or programs, what economic, educational, social policies, political policies did he implement that benefited Soviet Union and people. So this is framed in a positive impact. So you do have to address Stalin's rule did benefit the people, okay, but in which aspects? So political, social, economic. And because this is a two-sided question, how do you agree with this statement, right? We'll also have to deal with the other side of the issue, the other perspective, which is that Stalin's policies, programs did not benefit Soviet Union and her people in whatever aspect, political, social, economic. So up to your choosing. All right, so some reminders, okay? Because even though I mentioned that this is two-sided, which means that you need to have 2+1 paragraphs which cover both perspectives. Okay, some of you only gave me 2 paragraphs of the same perspective, which means you gave me did not benefit and did not benefit. Okay, but you have to address the other side in order to progress up the level of marking. Okay, so did not benefit. So either you can choose to write 2 did not benefit. Okay, so 2 paragraphs on this one perspective, or you give me and then you give me one more perspective about Stalin's rule did benefit the people. Okay, or you do it the other way around. All right. So other reminders as well. Okay, please clearly identify your answer. So this answer here, I disagree with this statement. I think a lot of you started with this. I disagree with this statement. Then you begin with then you went straight into your story. Okay, but let me get out my pen. Right, but this is very vague because I don't know. Right, I disagree with this statement. Oops, how do I? Okay, okay, no, I cannot. Okay, all right, I cannot annotate on the PowerPoint. Never mind. So I disagree with this statement. So what does I disagree with this statement mean? Like in which aspect? So please address the factor clearly. I disagree with this statement because collectivization brought about many negative impacts such as, and then that's your factor. Before you move on to explaining what collectivization is all about. Okay. And another reminder, right? Please use your content wisely, right? Do not throw it all at me without understanding its significance. Because sometimes when I read your paragraphs and then your point is, I disagree with this statement, but then the evidence, some of the details you copy down, right? I'm assuming you copied it down from your notes, begin to talk about the other view instead. And that's not very clear. So it seems like you're contradicting yourself. Okay, but overall, I think it's quite good because there has been an improvement in the explanation, but these are just some things for you to know. All right. Okay, any point, if you want me to stop and you want me to re-explain certain things or you have a question, just unmute and let me know. Okay. All right, so Stalin's rule did not benefit the Soviet Union. I think this perspective is easier for you to explain, right? I think most of you did well in this, in writing the paragraph with this perspective. So different points you can use, right? So these are your factors. So you can tell me collectivization came at the expense of tension between farmers and state, right? Or resulted in famine. Okay, so rapid industrialization resulted in poor working conditions for people, harsh and terrible lives, etc. political impact, I think Great Terror, show trials, fear and terror, these are very obvious points as to why it did not benefit the people. Okay, and then the social impact to state control of society. Do not just tell me, oh, I disagree with this statement because Stalin had state control of society. Tell me, okay, I disagree with this statement because state control of society resulted in, okay, then be specific here, restricted the people's freedom, for example. Okay, then workers were pushed to fulfill unrealistic quotas, suffered poor housing, famine. Okay, minority republics and religions were terrorized and oppressed, etc. Okay, so this list is not exhaustive. All right, this list is not exhaustive. All right, there are many different ways you can frame your point, which is effective. Right? Okay, so now we come to the harder perspective to argue. Right? What about positive impacts? Okay, so again, I'm going to split it into the three: economic, political, social. Okay, so let's look at collectivization first. Okay, so collectivization, if you're going to tell me collectivization had benefited the Soviet Union, okay, be clear about the outcome in your factor already. Okay, so tell me that it led to greater efficiency in farming that benefited the Soviet Union. Okay, then you explain collectivization in detail, which I think most of you are able to do this, right? You're able to tell me what collectivization was all about, how was collectivization carried out. Okay. Okay, but this is where your explanation, I want to, okay, this was the paragraph that I typed out, right? But to show you an example of what a solid, like a really solid explanation would look like, because I think most of you, right, when you explain, okay, you go from collectivization was the process of merging individual farms and all of these, but then you go on to say, oh, so this would result in greater efficiency. So when greater efficiency, then there are more crops. So when there are more crops, then there are Soviet Union benefit because they have more funds, right? Because they export these crops overseas, right? But okay, please don't speak in hypotheticals. What do I mean by hypotheticals? Please don't write your answers in, oh, so this would have an impact in, this would result in, this would so this would happen and this would happen. Okay, please be clear. Give me the real facts, right? The real facts of what actually happened. So frame your answer a bit differently. Okay, so tell me, this increased the supply of crops, and then give me statistics as well. Instead of just stopping at, oh, this increased the supply of crops. To stop. Okay, give me statistics. For example, supply of grain increased from these years to these years. Okay, from how much to how much, okay, proving its success. Okay, and then exported these crops overseas, which increased its wealth. All right, and then some farmers were freed up to work in industrial cities instead. Go on, explain, right? So what if some farmers were freed up to work in industrial cities? How does this benefit Soviet Union and the people? Okay, so go on to tell me, oh, supported Stalin's goals, USSR, an industrial powerhouse. Some of you mentioned that gave farmers more opportunities in cities. Okay, fine, I accept that. All right, and link back to the point briefly. It's just a summary. Okay, so at this point, any questions? All right, if not, let me move on to rapid industrialization, which I will not be going through in really great detail, because I think most of you were able to explain rapid industrialization well, right, as opposed to collectivization. Okay, so again, in your factor, you tell me, how did this benefit Soviet Union clearly? So you can start with, I agree with the statement. Stalin's economics policies of rapid industrialization led to Soviet Union becoming an industrial base, right, that caught up with the other developed Western nations, or that supported the USSR's fight in World War II, for example, or could support its military, right, by producing arms and weapons. Okay, so for your story, tell me about the 5-year plans, right, which is what rapid industrialization is all about, right? Cite examples of the new towns, right, that were built. I think a lot of the times, right, what the teachers want to see more is that you have evidence to back up your explanation, right? So please try as best as possible to memorize, right, some statistics, okay, accurate statistics, okay, don't make it up on the spot. or accurate statistics that are also accompanied by an accurate time frame. Okay, because this is what is the problem of some-failure explanations. Okay, because some of you, after you explain rapid industrialization, what it's all about, okay, then you go on to say, oh, this benefited the people. This is where your explanation comes in, right? So you tell me, oh, this benefited the people because production of basic goods increased, more supplies became available. There was free education, public parks, sports fields, gymnasiums were provided, right? But, okay, you have to be clear about the time frame. Okay, what do I mean by that? Because if you remember, right, about rapid industrialization, there were three, okay, 5-year plans. The first 5-year plan, the first and second 5-year plan, both focus very heavily, okay, on industrial goods, the capital goods. Okay, so all of these things, basic goods, right, consumer goods, things like shoes or whatever, right, shoes, food, I don't know, pillows, all of that, right, were neglected in favor of capital goods, in favor of producing oil, steel, coal, all of these things. Okay, so you have to be clear about the time frame as to when it started benefiting the people. All right. Okay, so that you don't contradict yourself, right? Because some of you use rapid industrialization did not benefit. Then after that, rapid industrialization did benefit. So be clear about the time frame. Which time frame did it not benefit, and then which time frame did it benefit? Okay, so this is probably after the second 5-year plan, right? As they move to the third 5-year plan. Okay, in this case. All right. So let me know if you don't understand what I'm saying. Okay, because I cannot see your faces, I cannot judge your body language. So you have to tell me if you don't understand. Okay, because chances are other people don't understand too. Okay. Okay, 3 seconds. All right. Okay, so let's move on to political impact. Right. So some of you tell me Stalin's harsh political actions did benefit the Soviet Union. Okay, interesting. This is a difficult perspective to argue, right? But so long as you do it well, you would be able to get a mark. Right? But the problem is some of you do not do it well. Okay, so you tell me did benefit the Soviet Union, and you tell me all about the different political actions that he took. Oh, Great Terror, show trials, purges, the arrest by secret police, interrogations, all of these, and you end there. Okay, but how did it benefit the Soviet Union? Right, it seems a bit contradictory, doesn't it? Not benefit the Soviet Union, doesn't it? Leave people in fear and terror. Okay, but there is a way to explain it. Okay, so remember, for Great Terror, for things like Great Terror, for things like Stalin's very harsh political actions, right? The ultimate goal is to consolidate his power as the supreme leader of the USSR. So how does he do this? Right, people who oppose him are killed, taken out, eliminated. Right, they confess to their crimes, religions, minorities are attacked. Okay, people become scared, fearful, paranoid. So how does this benefit the Soviet Union? Okay, you're still not addressing the question. Okay, so go back to the idea, right? What's his ultimate goal? To consolidate his power as the supreme leader of the USSR. Right, but why does he want to do this? Right, why does he want to make sure that he's the only one who is unopposed? Anyone?
So that like he could unify the whole country under one rule.
Yes. Okay, so when you unify, good, Benny. Right, so when you are the only one in power, think about the KP, think about China, right? Think about what you know in current society, right? When you are the only one in power, it's more likely that whatever policies, whatever programs that you implement, right, would go unopposed. And then everyone is unified under your rule, right? So they all progress in the same way. Okay? All right. So if you want to use this as an argument, you need to be able to explain it properly. Okay? You need to show me that you understand how it truly benefits the Soviet Union. Okay, and this is also when you can also use things like the economic impact, right? So when all of these happen, like harsh political actions happen, right? His power is consolidated, right? So then his policies could be a success. For example, in the case of rapid industrialization, it was a success, right? So you can have overlaps. Okay, it doesn't mean that social impact means you can only talk about social impact. There are things you can use, some of it overlaps, right? Because harsh political actions would lead into the other policies that he comes up with. For example, economic policies. So use these ideas, to prove the point. But of course, if you think you cannot explain it well, since harsh political actions have benefited the Soviet Union, then don't do it. Okay? All right, let's move on. Okay, wait, questions? Okay, if not, social impact. Okay, so Stalin's rule had benefited the Soviet Union. Okay, so many of you tell me about compulsory schooling. Okay, another factor. Okay, this was Benny's paragraph, which I thought was very well written. Okay, so Stalin's rule also gave women more rights by legalizing abortion, encouraging women to work. Okay, so this is a story. Okay, rapid industrialization required more manpower. Okay, so they were encouraged to enter the workforce, and then abortion, divorce were legalized. So women could have more control over their lives. Okay, so this is where the explanation comes in. How does this benefit the people? Okay, because by having more control over their lives, women could finally become who they wanted to be. Okay, in this case, a suggestion for improvement is that maybe you could do some research about like the women who succeeded in the era of Stalin, right, because of these policies, right, to further prove your point. Okay, so hence Stalin's rule gave women more rights. All right, so do not just, I use Benny's example as a case study to tell you guys, right, that do not just give me the details or posters encouraging women to enter the workforce and become productive members of society with spread. Full stop. Okay, you have to explain who does it benefit? Okay, in this case is the women, and how does it benefit them? They have more control over their lives. Okay, and therefore they have more rights. Okay. I think it's the last slide already for FSEL, right? Miscellaneous. Okay. Some things about your content. I think you guys, some of you guys are copying without really understanding what you're writing. Okay, so for example, they tell me that the NKVDs, the secret police, arrested and questioned people, and there was a quota system put in place, but in reality, anyone could be arrested. Okay, but you don't explain what this quota system is, and then I'm left wondering, do you really understand what this quota system is? Okay, what does this quota system signify, right? And how come, even though a quota system was put in place, anyone could be arrested? Okay, so the quota system here, right, refers to the number of people that the NKVD had to arrest, right? They were given a minimum and maximum number of people that they had to arrest, right, and identify as anti-Stalin opponents. Okay, and then other things too. Some of you use, right, policies for minority republics as a way to as part of your argument to prove that it did benefit the Soviet Union, right? You give me this one. Minority republics were allowed to use their own language and be governed by their own people. Okay, but remember in class, right, I showed you the map of all the different minorities, all the different cultural minorities, right, who were all oppressed. Okay, so yes, this part may seem like it's positive, okay, but go further. Was it wholly positive? Right, they were governed by their own government, but it was actually a puppet government. Okay, so don't include details without understanding the full context that happened at that point in time. All right. Okay, and then some misunderstandings as well. Okay, so some of you mentioned policies for women legalized abortion and there was childcare set up so women could become productive workers of society. This was good because women now had to fulfill both roles as housewife and worker. Okay, so this tells me that you took the first part of the notes, took the first part of your textbook, okay, and then you went to the last part of the paragraph. Okay, because then you missed out, right? Why did women have to fulfill both roles as housewife and worker, right? Because the policies of divorce, of abortion were later reversed. Okay, so this is what I mean by time frame is important, right? By legalizing abortion, having childcare set up, right now women, they don't have to fulfill their role as a housewife. They can be released from that role to become a worker, right? But then this policy was later reversed, okay, in the time frame. Okay, and then women were then pressured to fulfill both roles. All right. So please be clear about this, because if not, it tells me that you don't really understand, right, how legalizing abortion and having childcare set up, right, resulted in women having more rights. Okay, then your explanation is wrong, basically. Okay, I think this is the last one. Okay, the last part of my FSER explanation. Okay, the error analysis. Anyone have questions about this? Or if you want to repeat, if you want me to repeat, you understand where it went wrong or anything like that. Okay, but if you, maybe some of you guys are a bit sleepy right now, you don't really understand what's happening, but if anything, right, anything that you have taken away from, what I want you to take away from this Zoom for the FSER part is that, okay, one, you need to have a very clear factor, okay, that addresses the question clearly. Next, time frame, okay, remember your time frame. You have to memorize dates, okay, in history, you have to memorize dates. There's no way about it, okay, and then last thing, please include more statistics, okay, to prove your point, right? Statistics is an example of the hard historical facts, the details of what happened. Okay. All right. If not, I'm going to move on. Okay. Okay, purpose and comparison. Okay, I have to say, actually, a lot of you did very well. Even though this was our first practice with purpose and comparison, I think the SS teachers have trained you well. Mr. Chu has trained you well. Okay, so first, let's move to purpose. You should have your purpose and comparison worksheet with you now. Okay, so purpose answer, CAMOS, right? Remember when I gave it up, when I gave the worksheet out, a lot of you were confused. What is CAMOS? Okay, it's the same thing as what Mr. Chu taught you last year, SMILE, right? Just that A and M swap. Okay, CIAO. Okay, it's the same thing. It's all the same thing. But right now, the entire humanities department decided that we will all use CAMOS, okay, to have a bit more, so that you guys are not confused, basically. Okay, so it's basically the same thing, right? Context, what was happening then when the source was created. Audience, what does the source want to do to the audience, right? The intent. Okay, who is the audience, right? Message, which is your main inference of the source. Outcome, the speaker wants the audience to think and do. Okay, and S here refers to source, evidence, and explanation. Okay, which most of you already include, which I think is really good. All right. So, okay, what I want you to note for CAMOS, and this is something I tell my Sec2s as well, right? If you find the format of writing CAMOS, what has already been taught to you, since this source was published in a certain year when this was happening, the purpose of this source was blah, 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 you find it too rigid, it's okay if you don't want to follow that structure. So long as you remember, you need to have context, you need to address the audience, you have message, you have the outcome, and you have the source, evidence, and explanation. If you hit all these 5 points accurately, okay, there shouldn't be a problem. Okay. All right, so let's look at the source. Okay, a Nazi poster printed in July 1932 with a caption that reads, "We workers have awakened. We trust the Nazi party." Okay. So immediately, because I can't use my pen for some reason, but there should be annotations. Okay, there should be annotations on your own source, right? So so you start with the source detail, July 1932. What's happening at that point in time? Oh, Hitler's rising. There's unemployment, right? The after effects of the Great Depression, right? So Hitler's on the rise, Nazi party's on the rise. There's unemployment. People are suffering. And also there are elections in July 1932. Okay, so that's important. All right, so then you see the source. Okay, there is a German worker, okay, standing very tall, very strong. Okay, it's not Hitler. And then you have these people looking a bit strange, a little bit afraid. Other parties making their promises to Germans. Okay, and they look very inferior. right? And then you have this building of the Nazi the swastika, the Nazi symbol, okay, standing very I don't know, well built. Okay, so it shows the dominance of the Nazi party. That would probably be your inference, right? The Nazi party, okay, is superior to the other parties as it makes the German workers really strong. All right, so this is why I say you have to annotate your source. Okay, you need to annotate your source. So your annotations, your observations will help you form an inference. Okay, so I'm just going to give you the answer like this. Okay, so since this source was printed in July 1932, when Germany's economy was poor, right, and there were elections for the Reichstag, so that's your content. The purpose of source A was to convince the German workers, people of public. Okay, then what's your inference? The Nazi party was superior to the other parties, was trusted by the workers. Okay, so that Nazis would get the Germans' votes in future elections to gain power in the Reichstag. Is someone saying something? Deepa, do you have a question? Okay.
No.
Okay, can accidentally unmute. All right, so from the context, right, July 1932, there were elections in the Reichstag. Okay, but we don't know whether this is, it just says July 1932. We don't know whether this poster was printed before the elections or after the elections, which the Nazi party has already won. Either way, it doesn't really make a difference, okay? Because your outcome is still the same. The Germans vote in future elections, right, to gain power in the Reichstag. Some of you just tell me also that they can gain the trust and support of the Germans. But how? How are they supposed to gain the trust and support of the Germans? Okay, some of you did tell me, so that more people would join the Nazi party as members. Okay, right? But you can also say Germans they wanted to get Germans votes in future elections. All right. Okay. And then if you want to screenshot, you can, but I do recommend writing this down so that when you revise, you don't have to look at your phone. You can just look at what you've written down. Okay, so the source evidence and explanation. Source shows small humans representing other parties making promises while a muscular German worker ignores them. As a large Nazi building is shown in the background, which shows how the Nazi party was dominant and superior. Okay, you need to have your source evidence and explanation. There are some things that, okay, I think most of you were able to get the outcome, right? But the message, right? Some of you just stop at saying to convince the German workers and public to vote for them, right? But then what is the message of the source? So this is why you need to have your source evidence and explanation. If I cannot find your message here, right, it's most likely their message would appear here. Okay. All right, any questions about this? Let me see what other mistakes that you all make. Some of you said this was to motivate workers to work harder, right? Workers to work harder, but really, right? Why even have the other parties here then? Okay, and then to praise the Nazi party for giving them jobs. It's not very clear, right, that they have jobs from here. It just shows that he's looking very strong. Okay, I think there was one misreading that mentioned that to encourage Germans to vote for the other parties. But it doesn't make sense. It's a Nazi poster. You know. All right. Maybe I'll give you guys 30 seconds to a minute to drop this down. Okay, if there are no questions, right, I'm going to assume you guys are done. Okay, I'm going to move on to comparison next. All right. Okay, so this is the source, right? Comments made in an interview by a German member of the Nazi, right? And it's praising Adolf Hitler, right? I have been unemployed, but now I'm well taken care of by the Nazi party. Okay, and then a letter written by a member of the Nazi party to Hitler in 1936, right? Thanking the Führer for saving them from Jewish communism. Okay. So let's recap question types, right? How similar are the sources? You need one similarity and one difference. Okay, so the trick is to see the position of your keyword, how similar it is at the front, right? They're asking for one similarity and one difference, as opposed to how are the sources similar, right? Then this will require two similarities. Okay. Other things as well. In what ways are the sources similar? Two similarities as well. Okay. And then you have the odd one out, which is to what extent are the sources similar? So you need both sides. Okay, one similar and one difference, regardless of what the keyword here is. Once you see to what extent, right? This applies for your SEQ part B as well. You need two-sided. You need a two-sided perspective. Okay. All right, so I want to stress, some of you only gave me the similarity, but you missed out on the difference. Okay. So similarity, I think this one was very easy for you to identify, right? Showing that Hitler had been a successful leader, Germans were very happy, saw him as a hero, worshipped Hitler. All of these answers are acceptable, okay? But the difference was a bit more complex. I think if you guys are afraid to get that you cannot identify the difference, okay, please read the source very, very carefully. Okay, please read the source very, very carefully. Okay, in the exams, you might get more difficult sources, right? They are using more complex English, right? Their sentence structures might be a bit different. Just break it down for yourself. Annotate. Okay, please annotate so you know what they're talking about. All right. Okay, so the difference, right? So these are some inaccurate differences. All right, both sources are different in terms of who they were grateful for. Source C was grateful for the Nazis, while source D was grateful to Hitler. Okay, nope. All right, both sources are grateful to both the Nazis and Hitler. Right, Adolf Hitler, Nazi party, right? And then this is about Hitler, sure, right? But it's also about the Nazi party. This is not a very good difference. Okay. Other things, both sources are different in terms of their level of devotion to Hitler. Source C states that I beg you not to say anything to set up doubt in my mind. This shows that he was capable of doubting Hitler, right? However, source D states that I feel compelled to thank God every day for giving us such a wonderful Führer. This shows that he was completely devoted to Hitler, right? Not really, okay? Because in both sources, they both exaggerate a lot, okay? They are both written in praise of Hitler. Right? I'm pledged to the party. I beg you not to say anything to set up doubt in my mind. So if you tell me that this source is still a bit doubtful, right? That's not really true because you're just taking the last sentence out of context, right? What about these things? I can only tell you I cannot go back. I committed myself, my body, soul, and spirit to the party. Okay, so please don't take one single sentence out of context, right? Please read it in the whole context of the entire source. All right. Okay. And then, so the difference, right? Both sources are different in terms of the things that they were thankful to Hitler for, / the threat that was faced by Germany before Hitler's rule, right? Because if you notice, the first source only talks about his unemployment as a problem, right? That was the only problem that he mentioned. He didn't talk about Jewish communism. He didn't talk about the mass unemployment. He only talked about his own unemployment. Okay, so this tells me that the individual was jobless before the Nazi party saved him. As opposed to source, these states, right, threatened with the most terrible destruction by Jewish communism. This means that Hitler saved Germany from the Jews who destroyed the country. Okay, so they're different in terms of the problems that they face. All right, so again, if it looks like there's no difference, right, we won't ask you a question where there's no difference. Okay, just read the source very carefully. Of course, both sources are thankful to Hitler for the same thing. Are both thankful to Hitler, okay, but they're thankful to Hitler for different things. All right. Okay. If you want, you can take down the BOC first in terms of the things that they were thankful to Hitler for, the threat that was faced by Germany before Hitler's rule. Then after that, it should be quite obvious. You should be able to do the rest by yourself, right? So just copy down the BOC. Okay, I'm going to move on. All right. Both sources are different in terms of who Hitler had helped. Okay, I think some of you gave me this difference, which I also didn't spot actually. This tells me that Hitler and the Nazi Party had helped this individual to get a job. Okay, I think some of you phrased it as in terms of the scale of Hitler's help. Right, so the first one only talked about Hitler's help on a very individual basis, whereas the second source talks about Hitler saving the whole entire country, right? The most beautiful and dear fatherland, which refers to Germany. Okay, so just copy down the VOC. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so some of you went straight for the Q and started comparing purpose. All right. If you do this, right, in future we will start comparing purpose now. But right now we only need you to compare the content in the source. Okay, but if you compare the purpose, right, of course it's all right. Right, it's definitely all right. Right, you can compare the purpose if you want, but you have to do it well. Okay, which means you have to have Kamos times 2. All right, you have to have Kamos times 2. All right, so I'm not going to go through the entire Kamos, right? But since source C is an interview by a member of Nazi Party, right? It's propaganda, okay, to convince more Germans to support and obey Hitler and Nazis. Okay, so you have the outcome in here as well. All right, as opposed to source D is a letter to Hitler. It's a private letter to thank and read and praise him. Okay, I think Ray was able to complete this quite well. Right? Ray attempted the purpose comparison. All right, but I'm going to repeat. At this point in your WA, if you go straight to comparing purpose, you will not get higher marks for it. Okay, you will not get higher marks for it because we are only teaching you to compare the content. In future, we will teach you how to do comparison of the purpose. All right. Okay, so I've come to the end, right? I think JN just joined, right? Do you have any questions? JN, you can go and watch the recorded Zoom after this. All right, or if you have no questions to address you're in front of your classmates, right? You can always stay back to ask. All right, but any questions now?
Could you repeat again how we can differentiate whether to write similarity and difference or just differences and similarities?
Okay. Okay. So if you compare this, right? How similar are the sources, right? It's like me asking you, how are you today? How good are you today? Right. So you can tell me I'm good, but I'm also bad. Like, how good are you today? How are you today? I'm both. That can be both. As opposed to me saying, how are the sources similar? So I'm only asking you for similarity. How is breakfast yummy today? So I'm really assuming that it is only yummy. I'm not assuming that it's not yummy. How is breakfast yummy today? So then you can only talk about breakfast being yummy, right? So you have two similarities here. Okay, but the hack that I think the teachers have been telling you is to pay attention to the position, all right, where the placement of the keyword is similar, right, at the front, okay, and similar at the back. Okay, which applies for this one as well. In what ways are the sources similar? Okay, in what ways is breakfast yummy today? Okay, I am not asking you whether breakfast is not yummy. I'm just asking you, how is breakfast yummy today? Okay, it has maple syrup, or it has apples. I don't know. Okay, but here, to what extent are the sources similar? So even though the keyword is at the back, right? Once you see to what extent, okay, to what extent, it's definitely going to be a both-sided question. So you need to have one similarity and one difference. Okay, so you can take it as follow the position. If it's at the front, you need both. If it's at the back, you need two. But this is the exception. To what extent? Okay, then you need both, even though it's at the back. Can?
Yep, all right.
Yeah. There are also other question types like how far would source A agree, but that one we will go through another time. Yeah, it won't come out for this exam. All right. Yeah, I think as we move on to upper sec, there are a lot of different ways that the SEAB will try to trip you up. There are a lot more different question types that may surprise you, such as after using source C, are you surprised by source D? Okay. Yeah, I'm very surprised lah. Yeah, so, but these are all skills that the teachers have taught you before. It's just how do you apply to suit the question. Yeah, but don't worry, right now it's just a comparison question, right? So just remember how similar are the sources. If it's at the front, okay, both. If it's at the back, it's just one perspective. So give me two similarities. And if it's to what extent, you need both sides. Okay. Any other questions? I think Chloe just joined. Chloe, you can watch the recorded Zoom, right? I'm done. I'm really done. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, if not, do you know what to study? Some of you were confused as to what Monday's WA would test. Let me go to the info sheet. Okay, I've sent the info sheet to your group. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, so this is in the history 3.6 and 3.4 group, right? I sent a screenshot here, right? So what's tested? Impact of Stalin's rule, okay, and rise of Hitler. Okay, so study the factors for these two. Okay, and the skills, purpose, comparison, SEQ, part B. Okay, it's a it's a two-sided question. Like, to what extent was Hitler's rule beneficial? To what extent was Hitler's rule considered a success? Or Hitler's rule was a success? How far do you agree? Okay, so just make sure you have both sides. Okay, 3 paragraphs, at least 3 paragraphs. Okay, and yeah. Okay, I think right, I was going to say that's not too much for you to study, but it is quite a lot. Impact of Stalin's rule alone. Okay, any questions? Okay, if not, you can leave this Zoom. Thank you very much for staying on. Oh, look, Duncan just joined. Duncan, we're done. Okay, if you have any questions, you can just stay behind to ask. If not, you can leave the Zoom now. Duncan, Chloe, and Jian, and other people who have just joined, right, you can watch the recorded Zoom. Okay, if not, bye. Happy studying.
Rachel, only FSCR is only for sterling impact, right?
Well, you can make a inference based on what we've done in class.
Also, it's only sterling impact.
I will not confirm it, but good inference. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,